1 year from now, Connecticut will have a new governor to succeed Dan Malloy. But who will it be? In a moment, you'll hear from two candidates, Republican Mark Boughton, who wants to eliminate the income tax, and Democrat Sean Connolly, who says Connecticut is in crisis. Plus, if Luke Bronin becomes governor, who will run Hartford? We will meet the potential future mayor, Gwendolyn Thames, and the city council minority leader, Wildelise Bermudez. Our flashback, the end of an era 25 years ago. It's all right now on Face the State on this Sunday morning, January 14th, 2018.
From Eyewitness News, Connecticut's most watched local political program, this is Face the State.
Good morning and thanks for joining us this Sunday. I'm Dennis House. With the political conventions only 4 months away in May, we are joined today by two candidates for governor, both of whom are saying he is the candidate of change. First up today, the mayor of Danbury, Mark Boughton. He is 52 years old, is a former teacher, the longtime mayor of Danbury, first elected in 2001. Boughton was the nominee for lieutenant governor in 2010, and he ran for governor again in 2014. And Mayor Boughton is with us today. Mayor Boughton, good to see you on the program this Sunday.
Well, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Good to have you. We covered some big news from you this week, and that was your big announcement that, number one, you're running, but the big aspect of your campaign is that you want to get rid of the income tax.
We do.
Within 10 years. Now, this was a campaign cornerstone back in 1994. Everybody wanted to get rid of it, but no one ever did.
Right.
Some say it just can't be done. How are you going to do it?
Well, people say that, but I think the times have changed, and I think really, given the new changes to the federal tax code and given the fact that this state, in my estimation, is in a death spiral, the times demand that we do something bold, something courageous, and something innovative. So we have a plan. It phases out the income tax over 10 years. There is a reliance on other revenue streams, right? But at the end of the day, we've got to have that one marketing niche, that one little thing that says that we're different than all the states around us, that will bring us back to a time when people wanted to come to Connecticut, live in Connecticut, and start their business in Connecticut. Our plan does that. It's creative, it's bold, and it's certainly something that I think the legislature will be interested in.
What are those revenue streams?
Well, some of that is taking it back to some of us to the pre-91 revenue streams, and others are looking at creating efficiencies and drawing in and consolidating, collapsing departments to cut costs. And also another aspect of the program is to be able to look at each individual expenditure from a zero-based budgeting process. So any way you cut it, it's a combination of creating efficiency, of looking at other revenue streams, and at the end of the day, being able to grow our economy. So our plan actually is a pro-growth plan. It will create jobs, and businesses come back. As they come back, our revenue streams go up and they get higher.
You talk about inefficiency in state government, and you told the Danbury News-Times this week that the Board of Regents was a fine example, and I believe the words you used, you said that basically it's a dumping ground for political appointments for people who, quite frankly, couldn't find a job in the private sector. Who specifically are you talking about?
I think there's people at the top of the food chain there that are paid an exorbitant amount of money, an offensive amount of money, over $300,000 in the case of the director, who then the president, who then managed presidents. So we have a president managing presidents, right? So at WestCon, we pay our president $240,000. So you've got $500,000 in salary tied up just in one university, when really we pay and hire people at these universities good money. We hire them for good reasons. They can manage their own buildings, their own departments, and their own university, and just report to the governor's office and the legislature. So we don't really need a board of regents. And it's become as a place to go when you want to fill out your pension and be able to raise your pension to a dollar value that you want. So it's a perfect area where there's a lot of waste and, frankly, usefulness and uselessness, and easily cuttable.
So 5 years into this income tax removal plan, what would the rate in the state be by the year 2024?
Great question. It rolls down to about half of its current rate, and some of it is dependent, obviously, on some union concessions that we need and some other pieces of the consolidation plan to work. So the exact figure, I don't have it at my fingertips, but by the end of the first 2 years, there's a significant drop in the tax.
But that's a lot of money you need to make up by not collecting income tax.
Well, that's true. If you're stuck in the bureaucratic box of thinking we have to have $7.5 billion per year, we don't have that money, then we're not going to be able to run the government. That's true. you need the income tax. We're talking about a wholesale reorganization of state government. We're talking about coming down to 10 key commissioners or directors of departments. We're talking about eliminating OPM. We're talking about doing some things that I don't think have ever been proposed. But that's because the times demand it. So I look at this as a great opportunity, not as a necessarily bad thing.
Which other departments might you eliminate?
I'd have to go back and review the plan. I don't want to quite, I don't want to spill all my popcorn here in the lobby before we get to see the movie.
It's okay to spill.
But there are some. Look, we also look at outsourcing, right? I mean, it's a shame that we've severed our relationship with AAA, who I thought is a great vehicle to spin off some of our DMV outsourcing in terms of the customer service side. So there's a whole host of proposals like that in there.
As we look at some other revenue streams, what about casinos? Expanding casino gambling in our state, there are some who say, just open it up. If 10 people want to build casinos here, let them.
There's some of that, but remember, we would jeopardize our compact with the Native American tribes, so we got to be careful about that. I also think that we really haven't looked at this in a comprehensive way. Where are the revenues? What place would best generate the revenue where we site this facility? Can the Mashantuckets and the Mohegans play in that particular arena if it's somewhere else besides East Windsor or besides Bridgeport? We're not really sure what the impact would be, and we just don't have a comprehensive approach to this. And so we've got this scattershot thing going on where the legislature is saying, hey, we've got to intercept people going up to Springfield. Well, how many people really go up there? Do we know that's really going to happen? What studies have been done, and how best can we do those studies so that we can best reflect what's best for Connecticut, not what's best for the respective companies or tribes that want to run the casinos.
What about tolls and marijuana?
Well, tolls are really a bad idea, and the reason is the culture thing, a spending culture that exists at the state legislature. If you give them the ability to raise more revenue, spend more money, they're going to do that. So I think that's problematic for us. And until we have a conversation about getting the transportation fund money out of the legislators' hands and having it be a completely independent expenditure driven by a priority list, I would be concerned about allowing them to collect more money. Marijuana, on the other hand, is we shouldn't be doing it. I can tell you this, that we shouldn't be doing it to raise revenue. That's an absurd argument. I have concerns, particularly with the opiate situation that's happening both in Connecticut and across the country about it. And I still have a lot of thinking to do about that issue. I'm concerned about it, though.
One of the state's biggest expenditures is giving money to cities and towns to keep their operations going. What about returning or proposing a county form of government so that some towns would have to combine their services? For instance, I believe it's East Haven and West Haven has 3 fire departments, and the state in part funds some of that.
Yeah, look, we ought to be working together as municipalities. And as long as it's done on a voluntary basis, I have no problem. And as long as the state puts in front of the towns and cities ways in which to cooperate that may be rewarded with more state funding, things like that, that's a good thing. I worry about a county form of government with more taxing authority. I think that's a bad thing. It's just another layer of government, and that's part of our problem is we just have too much government here. So remember, we've only got 3.2 million people. There are counties in Texas that are bigger than Connecticut. It's not that hard, and I think we've made it awful hard to run the state.
At last check, we had 11 Republicans, yourself included, running for governor. There could be some more. Does that hurt Republicans' chances of winning in November?
No, I think it helps. Look, I think as long as we can come together after the primary, which I think everybody's committed to do, as long as we can all commit that we're going to have a Republican governor, I think we'll do fine. I do worry about the sniping and the arguing back and forth. I don't think that helps the discussion because I think what Connecticut residents are yearning for is to vote for somebody that's got a vision and plan of where they want to take the state. They don't want to vote for somebody who can devolve themselves to the lowest common denominator of nitpicking and arguing, and certainly that's not something I plan on doing.
Mark Boughton, candidate for governor for the Republican Party and Mayor of Danbury, thanks for coming on the program.
Appreciate it.
We'll see you again. Next, we'll talk with the Democrat who is seeking the same job as Mayor Boughton, and we'll also meet 2 women who are helping lead the city of Hartford. And we welcome your comments on today's program. You can tweet me right now or find me on Facebook. We'll be right back.